Yeah, g'day viewers. Okay, yeah, I've done one coat on one side of this boat. So I'll turn to the boat, and now I'm trying to do something with all the rivet holes because in sanding it I've exposed the rivets. So I'm trying different things. I have puttied those rivets that were below the surface. I've used a dark putty, and the putty usually always goes darker when you put lacquer on it. So we'll test that shortly. So hopefully it's dark enough. The reason for doing a dark putty is most of the rivets are in these darker weather-stained areas anyway, so right down the bottom along here. So I figure I'll just make them all dark. The ones that are exposed, I've tried 3 different things. I've mixed up a tiny bit of lacquer with a tiny bit of walnut stain. And that didn't really work because the stain makes the lacquer thinner and it just runs off. I'll show you that actually. I'll show you what I've done. Right, this is where I put the lacquer with the walnut stain. If you see there's only a tiny bit of colour just down the bottom, it basically just ran straight off. That's not working at all. Okay, then I tried actually a bit of black spray can enamel, which may work, except the copper's sort of showing through a little bit, but we'll see how we go when we put a little lacquer on that. Same down with that one. You can see down that one that's only sort of stuck in the middle. And this one up here, I found a little bit of chocolate brown enamel. So sort of just, dabbed it on with an artist brush. Not as small a brush as I would like, but so there we go. Up here, this is the epoxy resin mixed with sawdust that I filled that edge with, and it's plenty strong. That's why I used the epoxy on that edge, but it really sort of stands out, looks unnatural. I don't like that. It's too dark. Same over here. I'm not going to bother with it up there. That line can stay dark, but although we do have, that's a natural dark, bit of damage. This is going to come up fairly dark. That wasn't filled. This edge was, but anyway, this bit here was still a low spot. So I puttied over it, but I went with a lighter colour putty, and it's obviously too light. Like you can see it over here. I've put a little bit of lacquer over here, and it's still way too light. It's a bit of an art actually, trying to match timber putty to timber, because there's so much variation in it. There's variation in the timber, there's variations in the putties, different brands of putties. And then as soon as you put lacquer over it, different brands of lacquer will cause it to change colour again. Generally it goes a little bit darker, but it's not always the case. I've tried a bit of a darker putty. We'll put a bit of lacquer on that. However, I'll just test that just across the middle here. I'll just see how it goes. Obviously that's going to be too light again. But there's another thing you can actually do. If I put lacquer over that, I'll have to wait for it to dry. But I'll show you up here what you can do. Yep, so I'll sit you just here I'll sit here for a minute first actually. Let's put a tiny bit of lacquer over these rivet holes and see which one works. Yeah. So basically what I'm doing here is experimenting. So yeah, I'm trying different things just to see. Yeah. See what works best. Yeah. The other issue too is because this paint hasn't been on there very long. It's yeah, so that's what, see what happened there? I just wiped it straight off. So it wasn't dry enough for doing that. The other one seems to it's not sort of showing as copper, but yeah. I'm going to have to test that further. I think a little bit round there too. Right, that's wiped it right off anyway, so get those runs off. Black does actually seem to work. The blacks, yeah. Black was quick dry paint too. It was like that was spray can enamel. I just sprayed a little bit in the lid. And yeah, sort of seems to work. As I said, I'm just experimenting, so. We'll see how this second lot of putty, what colour that comes out. There's a bit of lacquer on it. Yeah, it's still not matching. It still sort of stands out as being different, so yeah, experiment a bit more. The other thing you can, this is a this is a teak. So this is one thing you can do to colour something. It's just wipe it over it. I think that's still going to be too light. I should wait for it to dry, but I'm not. I should brush straight on. No, that's still too light. This is the right sort of darkness, but it's too, needs to be a bit more reddy, orangey colour. What else we got? What I'm doing here, I'm mixing a bit of walnut putty, which walnut's dark, it'll come up almost black, but I'm mixing some of that in with the teak. See what sort of shade that comes up with. As I said, you can't really get a true indication until you put the lacquer over the top. Well, we try it. Yeah, I tried here. That's too light anyway. You would hope that this wood putty is actually going to dry underneath wet lacquer, but we'll find that out as well. But yeah, so I have done this before. I've used wood colour to blend in. I'm trying to get that smooth so that I don't have too much texture when I lacquer it. Yeah, I've used it on places where you've got it's on blackwood actually, which has a very light and a dark grain within the timber. And I had to put screws in it, which I was trying to hide. And because it has these long dark streaks like of the natural grain, I got some dark wood filler. And instead of just having the round screw hole, I've spread it across the screw holes and made it look like the natural grain. So, but yeah, as I said, that was allowed to dry in sand, but so I've never actually put lacquer straight over it while it's wet. But anyway, worst comes to worst, I have to scrape it off and do it again. So worth dry. See what happens. I just want to, whilst I've got the camera on, I'm going to see if I've improved the look of it. Still not really the colour I'm looking for, because I haven't rubbed this putty yet either. So, yeah, I'm actually brushing it off. I'm going to have to see it, but yeah, no, it's still not working. I'll let the brush here. This is, I have rubbed a couple of these. I was sort of barely dry enough to rub, but I did manage to rub them back. So that looks reasonable. I mean, it stands out. It's the wrong colour, but it still looks better than a copper, a pin, you know. Looks the way it's supposed to, you know. Which has sort of come up, yeah, a chocolate brown colour. Anyway, leave it at that. Bit of a nothing video and just experimenting in front of the camera. Yeah. Right, look at that. I have pretty much sanded most of the other side. Still a little bit of hand sanding to do. A little bit up there. Still got to do, yeah, all these ridges and yeah, and along the bottom, on the gunnel. Got a bit of a split here. Can actually see. I can't now, but I could see daylight through that before. So yeah. So yeah, going to be a bit more epoxy putty yarn in there. It's the same deal up here. It's all full of silicon. It's going to have to be dug out and yeah, refilled. So yeah, from there right down to this goes all the way along. Yeah, right down to the transom. So yes, twice on the other side stops about here. So yeah, because I've got a hand rub around that, yeah, as well. And there'll be all the, yeah, whatever I'm doing on the other side. But anyway, as I said, I'm not content with any of that really, other than that, that's about how I expected that to look. So yeah, I said that's the walnut filler. Yeah, and see how much darker it goes. Look at the difference between that and that. How much darker it goes when you put lacquer on it. Yeah, changes the tone altogether. So, as I said, that's why when I'm doing this, the only way to know whether it's going to work is to put lacquer over it. But yeah, obviously that hasn't worked that well. It's the wrong colour. Yeah. I could have left it with a dark line. The boat's blotchy anyway, but instead of trying to make it look as good as I can. Anyway, I'm going to experiment some more, and yeah, because I've also lacquered straight over the unrubbed putty, so rather than wait for that to dry, I'm going to get a rag with terps and yeah, just wipe that off. And yeah, we'll do some more experimenting and see what we come up with. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Bye.